moisture in it. So that mineral, the wavelength from this black light enters the calcite, and the electrons are just bouncing around in there and emitting this light to us.
Okay, so we're going up a little steep hill. Good thing she let us go a little ahead so we can walk and get up this hill, because I'm sure many of us will probably have a little hard time. She did say that they do have black bear, grizzly bear, mama cub, mama with cubs, and she said also cougars, right?
Yeah,
moose.
And deer.
And deer, obviously.
Told you not to bring that. This coat.
Oh, when we get inside, it's gonna be 39.
Okay.
You put some on my neck.
Your towel's in the way. Look, okay. We're here.
Up in the back. Want me to do you?
No.
Okay, so we didn't see any lions and tigers or bears. Oh my. They must use this for something. Think the bears hibernate in there in the winter?
Yeah. 1899 is when he discovered this cave system. Now I have to tell you, this is ancestral land of the Kalispel people. So the Kalispel have been in this river system area for thousands of years. So they may have known about this cave before Ed ever found it. But Ed's the one we have documented on paperwork. We haven't seen any sign of indigenous use, but that doesn't mean they did not know about it. So in 1899 is when he found this. When he first came over here, he could not buy land. The Homestead Act was not in place. So he did what a lot of folks did at that time. He built a shack down by the river near where Boundary Dam is right now, and he squatted. So he had to make a living for himself. He hunted, he fished, supposedly he grew a garden, but he was most well known for his bootlegging. So he ran illegal whiskey across the border. So, wow. Yes. So he was a colorful guy. He came up here one winter day where we have two different scenarios for him finding the cave. One says that he and maybe his horse also fell in the cave. But it's kind of deep. We don't think that was real plausible, so we kind of go with the second ones. That one seems more logical. He came up here in the winter time. It was cold out here. The cave system is 39 degrees constant. Doesn't matter whether it's 14 below zero or 100 degrees. It's still 39 degrees, and I will tell you more about that inside. So anyway, so Ed was up here hunting, probably, and it was winter, and he came up around through the woods here. What would he have seen coming out of this cave if it was at least a degree colder than 39 degrees? Guess it's steam, right? So he went, aha, I've got a place where I can stash my brews and the sheriff won't find me. So that's what he did. And he claimed it for his own, even though he couldn't really buy it, but he claimed it. So he also supposedly had stills out in the woods around here. We don't have any corroboration of that, but that's some of that interview process that we've had over the years. Would make sense. So he kept it a secret as long as he could. He would go down on ropes and maybe handmade ladders with candles, matches. Maybe if he had a little extra money, had a lantern. And maybe some of his friends went down with him. Eventually, the secret got out though. And it's a small town community up here, was then, is now. So eventually in 1903, 1904, there were newspaper articles starting to be written about the cave system. So at that point, it's out there. In 1921, William Crawford, who the park is named after, he was a businessman down in town, and he knew about the cave system by then, of course. So he decided that if he could get ownership, then it would possibly bring in some tourism and money for the community. So he decided he would like to do that, but then he thought, you know, it might bring even more money in if we give it to the Park Service. They'll bring in more tourists. So that's what he did. He got a federal land grant in 1921. I have to say though, there's local lore that says that Ed lost it to William Crawford in a poker game, but we don't have any, you know, we just don't. It just sounds better, I think, for a lot of folks. So in 1921, he got that deed to this land. He didn't keep it very long. He turned it over to us in 1921, which we're very grateful for. But before he did that, he clear cut it. So if you kind of look around, most of the big trees look pretty even-aged stand. There's some young ones coming up, obviously. So in 1921, he gave it to us, the Park Service. Not much happened between 1921 and 1955. People were still kind of coming here at their risk. Matches, candles, ropes, etc. 1955, Park Service put in the first electrical system. It didn't work very well, and it went out pretty consistently, pitching everybody into pitch blackness. Because this cave's incredibly dark. I'm going to turn the lights out at the very end of the tour, if everyone's going to be comfortable with that, so that you guys can experience just how dark it is and how quiet. Those lights didn't work very well. They also put in some stairs and walkways. Those were wood. This is a really moist environment. So what happens when you put wood in a really wet environment?
Slippery.
It rots, and it did. So that didn't work too well either. In 1977, we actually put in a new lighting system, put in the stairs and walkways that you see here, and then we upgraded again a little bit in the 90s. Now, our lighting system works really well. If we lose a light bulb, we can replace it. So we're real good that way. But we're North Pend Oreille County, which means we can lose power from lightning storms, and we have lost power 3 times in 3 months. So we've got a storm coming in, and I'm going to just give you a safety heads up. If for some reason between the time we enter this cave and the time we get to the very end of it and I tell you I am going to turn out the lights, okay, on purpose. If it goes out anywhere in between, I want you to stop immediately. Don't move. Just stand still, because you won't be able to see your hand in front of your face. I have flashlights and others have cell phones, so within less than a minute probably I'll have lights on. Other people will be pulling phones out of their pockets, and I'll take you out of here. But you need to stop, please, immediately. Don't even go 1/16 of an inch, because you could fall, and we don't want anybody to take that ride to Colville, because it's the closest hospital. It's a beautiful road, but not in the back of an ambulance. Alrighty, so a couple more things before we go down inside. We have a new directive. I have to take my bear spray off and put it in a lockbox just as we start into the cave. So I'm going to ask you to just kind of wait behind me and let me get in there and do that. Then I'll lead you on down the first stop. We do not touch any of the rocks or the formations in there, and the reason is because the oil on our hands actually interrupts the flow of the calcite. So all that moisture, it pretty much just stops it, and the area where it's been touched turns dark, like black or brown, and it's dry. And you see some good examples, unfortunate examples, but good examples of some of our formations in there that were touched and broken off a long time ago. Plus you'll see some really beautiful, healthy flow stones in there. Alrighty, so we're going to go down inside. The last person that comes through this gate, if you could please just latch it behind us, make it look like we're in there, dummy lock it. You don't have to lock it up even though I have a key. I don't want you to have to wait when we come out, so because I will be the last one out. So if you could just kind of dummy lock it, whoever's last. Appreciate it. And the big gate at the bottom, if you could swing that shut also, you don't have to lock it or anything, just swing it shut, that would be great. And one last thing before we go down inside. When you start down around here, you're going to feel the coolness almost immediately. It's wonderful. And then as you go down into that first little area, you're going to smell an odor. And the odor, people tell me, smells like marijuana. I don't know. I promise I wasn't smoking before you got here. Garland would know. Anyway, I want you to know that what the odor is comes from our resident pack rats. We have resident pack rats. They are bushy-tailed wood rats, native. They've been in this cave system for generations, for thousands of years. This is their habitat. And they're really cool little critters. They're very shy, and they will scatter as soon as I turn the lights on. So the chances of us seeing one is like virtually zero. But you will see some of their nests, and then I will talk to you at the end about a great big midden that's down there. They are our historical data keepers here in this state and around the country and overseas. So they're very cool because of their habits, but they do not smell very good. So luckily after we get past this first little entranceway, the odor sort of dissipates. So we don't, even though they're down in there, it's cold enough all the way down in that we don't smell it. So anyway, come on in, watch your steps.
Can't wait to come back up these stairs.
Did I ever tell you about the back that was thrown out in the bathroom? Yeah.
You want to come in?
Yeah, I was really thrown off when I first saw it, so I never really
Light it up.
Watch your heads.
smells like,
Yeah.
I'm
Change your mind.
you know.
Well, it's
But, yeah, and then I found out,
Good
yeah.
more than that.
Yeah,
Send me for a nap.
cute.
they are very cute.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are times when they get into the wrong habitat, and we have to compete with them. I used to live a long time ago. I lived in the Ohio Okanagan, and I lived in this country temporarily until we got our up like
Oh,
this,
okay.
and then they have their tail, from 12 to 15 inches.
Okay.
And,
They just kind of keep growing, don't they?
pardon?
They kind of just keep growing.
No,
It just seems like it.
it's just because you're overwhelmed because they're in your house.
I swear, like, I had somebody say, like, he caught several, and he, I don't know, maybe he's telling a fish story, but he was like,
Maybe.
they were getting big.
No, they could be as big as a possum, I guess. You know,
Okay.
possum aren't
Yeah,
native
sizable.
here, but that's a
Yeah,
comparison. Okay, you guys, we're in here. This is a limestone cave. Everything you see in here rock-wise is limestone, even this up here. This is calcite. It's just a more pure form of limestone. And we're going to talk about how we get this. And you're going to see most of the formations in here are this calcite. Okay. There is one other rock that's in here. It's called Ledbetter Shale. It's this dark one. You won't see it anywhere on the walls or on the floor. You're going to see it up on the ceiling area. So the limestone. Anybody know how limestone forms?
I did, I don't remember.
Are you a geologist?
I took some geology in college, but no.
No.
So it's just calcium deposits built up over time,
Yes,
right?
calcium carbonate, and so it's like when you use Tums, if you look on the ingredients, it's calcium carbonate, and that is limestone. So I don't want you licking any of the walls or anything. Go home and get your little bottle of Tums. But so that's what it is, and it is formed by ancient sea creatures. The shale, or the bones and the shells from these sea creatures, when they died, they sunk to the bottom of the ocean. The pressure from the water on top and other sediment coming down on top of them turned those shells and bones into first a limestone ooze, then a limestone liquid, and eventually a limestone rock. Now, folks go, well, we're in the Selkirk Mountains, we're a long way from the Pacific Ocean. How did we get sea creatures in our limestone? Well, 500 million years ago, this was ocean. Okay. So we will fast forward millions of years again. The North American continent has drifted away from Africa and Europe, and it collides with the Pacific Plate out here, and there's a big collision. Everything gets thrust upward. Continental shelf comes up, brings up all the limestone from the bottom of the ocean floor. So now we have the Selkirk Mountains above, and we have the limestone. Now, Pend Oreille is known for having a lot of sea fossils, sea creature fossils here. We have not found any fossils within this cave system, but the mine that was working up here, one of our geologists actually brought a couple of samples of trilobites from the limestone within that mine. Unfortunately, he left them up on the picnic table for people to look at and trusted that they would be there. And unfortunately, someone decided they needed to take them home more than share them with everyone. So I don't have any samples to show you, but we're hoping to get some more at one point. Alrighty, so I want to show you something up on the ceiling. What do you think that hair-like stuff is? Carlos, I bet you know.
Concrete.
No. It's actually plant roots. Okay, so it's plant roots. It's the roots from the plants that are growing up above us that we saw before we came down in. This is shallow enough here that these plants have made their the roots have worked down through the rock. It's porous enough that they can get down in here. You won't see them anyplace else.
Like the palapas? Palapa?
Yes. If you make me laugh too much, I'll forget what I'm supposed to say. Okay, so you won't see them down inside any because it's too deep down in there. There's too much rock, but it can make it through this. It's kind of porous. So as rain comes down through our atmosphere, it picks up a little bit of carbon dioxide, picks up a little acidity, comes down through the soil and the plants, picks up a little more carbon dioxide, a little more acidity, and then it drips through. So as water has dripped through this cave system over the millions of years, it dissolves the limestone. and it leaves behind the calcite. Now, this cave itself is about 10 million years old, and it started as a really thin, paper-thin crack, probably, and ice, water, debris was starting to come down through this, and as it traveled down, again, that acidity in the water dissolved the limestone, and the cave just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger till we're here. When we go down inside, I'm going to show you a couple things right away, but before we go down, I'll tell you 3 things. One, anybody know what this is? Doesn't belong in here.
It's freezing.
No, it looks like it, but it's actually algae.
I was gonna say algae.
Yeah. You should always speak up, because you're probably right.
Yeah, well,
Okay, the cave is definitely moist. Algae for photosynthesis needs light and moisture. So it didn't have any light because this is a very dark cave, but the lights from our tour lights, being on 2 hours a day, actually created the process to allow this to grow. We've changed out the lights, so we're not contributing anymore, but we don't want to scrub it off because, again, the limestone's soft. You're going to see the green all the way down. Every place our lights pretty much used to rest on a feature or a formation. Next to it, that doesn't really look like it is natural either. What's that? Anybody?
That's for the wiring thing.
It is.
Wire.
It is. From that 1955 system, the lighting system, it's an insulator. It's the one that didn't work very well. So,
like the knob and tube wiring?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you will see them kind of scattered here and there down the walls. We didn't want to pull them out again because the limestone is soft. So I'm going to tell you about those two, and then the last thing I'm going to say is, if you come up here in mid-May when we open into maybe mid-June, there's a lot of moisture coming down through the cave. If we get a really big rainstorm, it takes about 2 days for that water to percolate down through this cave system, and so there's a lot more dripping in here early on in the spring because you have snow melt and you have rains. Right now we're starting to dry out. Some of the pools that are down there still have a little bit of water left in them, so you'll be able to see how clear that water is after coming through all this rock. But what happens, we still are getting what are called cave kisses in here. They are drips that come down and they land on your shoulder or your head. And if you get one of them, you're supposed to make a wish and keep it secret. And sometimes folks go out of here with a lot of cave kisses and secret wishes. So
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. So I promise you it's not our pack rats. It is actually pure rain coming down through the rocks. Okay.
Maybe the rats pee.
Yeah. Don't say that. Everybody will believe you. Okay, so when we get down here on this stairwell, it's very steep. It's the steepest one and the longest in the cave system. So just be really careful, because if one of us falls, it's like the domino effect. And I'm at the bottom, and I don't know if I can catch everybody. So just be careful. Use the handrails if you need them. They are cold and they're moist, but they are helpful. Okay.
There's a little.
You need a couple of kitties over here.
Well, you know, we do have a 12 o'clock noon kitties. But, all right, kitty, kitty, kitty. All right, this is, these two formations were heavily damaged, as you can see. People crawled all over them, broke pieces off. This one's called the Christmas tree or the zoo. They call it the Christmas tree because it kind of looks like a fir tree with snow-laden big limbs coming down. The zoo is mostly when we have the 12 o'clock noon kids tour. They see different animals, formations in this, you know. So we always stop here and let the kids tell us what they see for each level. Over this one in particular, our geologist told us this one took probably 7,000 to 8,000 years to form. It's no longer growing. This one over here is called the pipe organ. If you've ever been in a big cathedral in the States or overseas, you can kind of visualize what a pipe organ would look like. This one used to look like that. People came in and they broke stalactites off of it, climbed all over it. And again, you have our green algae on it showing through. But with the broken stalactites and broken calcite, you can see the crystalline inside the calcite. Now, these are really beautiful. People used to put candles in here when it was intact. And with the calcite, it would have just been stunning. And it also has something called, you know what transparency is, okay? Well, I can't see through this, but it has translucent properties, which means I can put my flashlight behind that rock and you will see my light glowing through it, but you won't see the flashlight. So again, with candles in here, it would have been quite stunning. So you can kind of tell what it might have looked like. You don't get to see light coming through rock very often. When you come back up, we'll come the same way. That light that's over there, sometimes you can see it shining through from this direction. So now we're going to go down a little bit further. Watch these steps, and it's kind of slick in here.
Good now.
And we can actually kind of spread out into this area just a little bit so that you can, everybody can get up in here. But try not to stand on the rocks because they're very slick. So you can come down and spread out right into here a little bit so everybody can see what I'm going to talk about. There you go. Okay, up here on this shelf is actually a pack rat nest. It looks like the forest floor because it is the forest floor. When they go up top to eat, they bring back treasures for their nesting. They'll bring back fir needles, pine needles, maybe some larch needles, pine cone scales with seed, some little tips off some of the twig branches on some of the evergreens, and maybe a little bit of wood that they find, but it's definitely, it is exactly the forest floor. But down inside, sometimes they bring in little treasures that we don't see. They want to decorate the inside of their nest. That's why they're called trade rats, because when they go out to feed, they might find something really special that they think would be just perfect inside their nest. So they pick it up, they bring it down, and as they start to come down back into the cave or wherever their habitat is, they may come across something else that's a lot more shiny or more of a treasure to them. So they drop the first thing, they pick up the second. So in other words, if you were to lose your diamond ring up on top and you come back to look for it, and a little pack rat was there the night before, it's probably brought down and put in this nest or one like it. But they always leave you something for a trade. They don't just take something, they leave you something for the trade. It might not be worth as much as your diamond ring, but it's a treasure to them. So you might get a toothpick or a little tiny bone or maybe a pine cone, but they did trade you for it. So now you come on down a little bit further.
I know, yeah.
when you come into this section, you need to be careful and stay on the trail because this is a growing stalagmite. We say mite because they grow up from the ground and you might trip over them if you're not watching your feet. The stalactites hang down from the ceiling. They're gripping really hard to the ceiling, so they're stalactites. Up here, we have a big flowstone coming down. Some calcite up in here coming down. The one on the left, for a lot of folks, looks like a dinosaur head.
I thought it looked like a largemouth bass, to be honest.
I don't know, I haven't fished for a really long time, but
Those are big frogs.
the one next to it, a lot of people think it looks like a pod. I think of it as a seed pod because I'm a plant person, but a lot of folks think it looks like the pod from the movie Aliens. So a little more sinister than I thought, but okay, and then on this side, this area here is called green eggs and ham. Now, or bacon. So you've all heard of green eggs and ham. This one's actually called green eggs and bacon because somebody thought that looked like a strip of bacon. And these are eggs in a fry pan. You'll see pack rat droppings on top of this. And so a lot of folks say it's peppered bacon. Now, this area is no longer growing, looks pretty dry, except for that coloring. The water was coming off of this wall and dripping down, so they were starting to grow. And then for some reason, the water stopped, shifted over to this side. So now we have this big formation over here. And then up on top, you see some more of that Ledbetter shale, and all the way down in there. Now, I love bluegrass music, and I love the blues, and every time I say Ledbetter shale, I'm always afraid I'm going to say Leadbelly shale, and everybody is like, so far it hasn't happened, but I've come close this many times. Okay, be careful coming down.
It's just that one that has a hump. That one had a hump on it.
This area here on your left, as you start to come across this walkway, it's a dry stream bed. And so a long time ago in its history, it had a lot of water flowing through it, maybe ice, maybe debris, maybe all of the above. You can see some of the sediment that washed down over in front of it down here. We know it goes back about 50 feet because one of our staff actually wanted to go explore it. So he went back in there and he got to a point where he was down in going through a really narrow area, and he was down on his belly trying to slide through, and pack rats started running back and forth across his legs. And so he exited quickly, and he hasn't been back, but because of his bravery, we know it goes back about 50 feet before it narrows down. And then I'll show you a couple other things here when you come past. These are called cave pearls. You can kind of see this little white, there's some about pearl size, they're kind of separated from each other. That's called cave pearls. It's both this one and the cave popcorn, I will also point out to you. It forms because moisture is coming through the rock system from over here. It kind of squirts out, so it's squirting, kind of sending some of the limestone and calcite out, and then it stops. So it gets this little bumpy stuff in here. Now the cave popcorn, there's some up here, it's a little larger and it's more rough looking, so it looks more like popcorn. But those are both cave popcorn, cave pearls. Our geologist told me that the word for it actually comes from a Greek word. It's batri oil. So if you remember that one, you're going to impress somebody someday. So it's botryoidal, and what that name comes from is it's an old Greek term. Apparently, geologists really love their Greek words. So it means something to do with kidneys, because they originally thought these reminded them of kidney stones. So I don't know, I've never had kidney stones, but that's what's behind that story.
You want to go in there, don't you?
That'd be cool.
You would have kept going.
Yeah.
Huh? You would have kept going. You would
Well,
have
I
kept
couldn't
going.
say. I like that. It's so cool. I like that. It's so cool.
I'm working down and there you go.
Wow, look at this. That's where people touch where she's saying it gets
Okay, when you come down
black.
to this area, first I'm going to tell you on this walkway, if you look above your head there, you're going to see a formation that is presently dripping. So if you really, really want to get a cave kiss, you can stand underneath it, you can probably get one.
There it
This area here, obviously we've been going down slope as we come into the cave system. That big flowstone that we just passed up on top up there, that one, this slope area here, water will run down here, did run down here in the past, and the water action actually comes through here, dissolved the limestone, left the calcite behind, made these little wells, and as the water continues, like through the spring and such, it pushes the calcite up to the ribs, and you have these brimstone pools. Now, if you look down in the upper ones, I think both of those have a little bit of water left. You might be able to see a drip once in a while. It's really clear. There you go. And so folks ask if you can drink it, and we say, well, probably not. And the reason is because the pack rats
That's
go
water
back
in there.
and
This
forth
is
here,
clear.
and so they
It's
leave
that drip
deposits
going
up
in
their
there, watch.
bone. And the other
You
reason
can't
is
see the water.
that this is hard water, so it has a lot of mineralization, and it probably just doesn't taste very good. A long time ago, they actually put, when these were full, they put dye in these to see where it came out, and they traced it down through the system, and it came out along the Padre River, and supposedly it came out very close or right next to the shack that Ed Gardner supposedly built back in the 1800s.
The ripples.
Now again, that's based on...
That is really clear.
So we don't know for sure. And this next one is too. Supposedly he had ulcers really bad just later in life. And people attributed it to the possibility that he was drinking this water, and it could have been the combination of this water and his illegal brews. So we don't know. But these are stalagmites, and they are growing upward from the dripping from the ledge right above them. And then up here we have stalactites. These are called cave straws. They're presently hollow, hence the name straw. They are the fastest growing formation in the cave system. They grow at an astoundingly fast clip of 1 inch per 100 years. So some of these little guys that you see water dripping off of, they're 4 or 5 inches long. They are 400 or 500 years old. And the calcite is the white that you see. The water has dissolved the limestone and left behind the calcite. material strength. When a stalactite coming down from the ceiling meets its companion stalagmite growing up from the floor, it forms a column. And this is the largest limestone column in the Pacific Northwest. And we're really proud of it, even though we did absolutely nothing to form it. But we're protecting
We're
it
claiming
now.
it.
We're protecting it now. When you come past, I want you to look for a few things. One, first off, it looks really wet and healthy. It's shiny. You got that calcite flow. There are little insects, some little gnats and mosquitoes stuck in here, maybe a cave spider here and there. They landed on this. They got stuck. They couldn't leave. And eventually the calcite just flows over top of them, and they're sealed in there for eternity, sort of like Jurassic Park stuff. Well, I don't know exactly. You can still see remnants of them. Yeah. So, and then you'll also find occasionally we find little earthworms. Here are a couple earthworms when you go past you can look at. They're trying desperately to make their way out. Some of them make it, some of them will not. And then one of the things on this flap I want you to look at with your lights or your cell phones. Here and here there are two signatures in pencil. Somebody wrote their names in there. Within the last 100 years, it's considered vandalism. It's within the last 100 years, so it's graffiti. Alrighty? Now at the bottom of that flap is a name that goes across horizontally and a date underneath it. And her name is Pearl. And she was here in August of 1912. She was a local teacher and apparently a very remarkable woman for coming all the way down here in 1912. In 1912, women wore dresses almost to the floor with boots. So I would like to hope, since she was such a curious, adventuresome woman, that she may have asked her brother or her dad if she could borrow a pair of trousers so she could wear that instead of dragging her dress through this floor, because it would have been full of debris and it would have been wet. So, dragging the skirts through that would have been bad. At that time, there were no lights down in here, so she may have come down with a lantern. Ropes, she would have had possibly some handmade ladders down in here. We figure she must have had some kind of ladder or something, because her signature is quite a ways off the floor of the cave system. So somehow she managed to get up into here. When you come past it, you will notice that the calcite is starting to flow over top of the signature. So at some point, it's going to disappear. But right now, we can still just kind of barely see it. We've taken a lot of photos. People take photos of it when they come through. Because she must have been a pretty remarkable lady to come down in here. She came this far. Most people stopped up there at the top, broke off their souvenirs, took them home, bragging about being in the cave system, how brave they were. Pearl came all the way down to here, and she may have gone all the way to the end. We don't know. But, she came this far. So we always kind of tip our hats to her. She must have been a pretty cool lady.
See it.
See it right there. Get close to it, baby.
And a lot of folks, when you look, are curious.
You get closer.
When you look back at that column from this side, it looks like a rocket. And so you see that in the formations.
It's kind of backwards.
Do what?
You're asking?
Like before, this was all built, all these
Yeah, there was damage in here, you know, things have kind of recovered to a
I
certain
think what you're saying
extent.
was, would it have impeded their development?
Right, if you're walking down on that.
It makes kind of roughness, which actually, from what I understand, actually almost improves it, because it makes them
It dips it.
dip and dip and dip. Yep.
Recordings?
Yep.
Gotcha.
But of course, I wasn't here in 1912, so I don't know for sure. Darling, don't tell everybody that.
Well, if you were, I was.
I'm trying to look as young as I can, even with my gray hair. Okay, you guys, when you're ready, come on down to the landing and we'll show you some other things. And it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No. Making the room.
Yep, we're good.
I'll probably take up space of 3 people.
I like it like that though.
We're gonna squeeze together here like pack rats. Cute little pack rats. Okay, if you look over the far side of that railing, you're going to see some more brimstone pools below. Those look really dry. They are. They haven't had water in them for quite a long time. They're actually starting to, the rims are kind of starting breaking off and falling back into the pool itself. If you follow that slope down a little further, you're going to see a gate at the bottom. That gate is locked, just like the gate that's on this railing over there. And that gate, from here, the cave goes down another about 700 feet. And we don't go down in there. It's not tourist friendly. It gets really narrow in places. And there are some
Scary
rooms
stuff.
that
I was
open
talking
up.
about. I don't want to.
There are some rooms that open up, but you might have mud to your waist, or seasonally you could have the entire room might be flooded. So there's been water all the way to the top. So if you're a scientist and you have a permit, we'll let you go down in there and look. We have light that you can see. There's electrical conduit on that far side, that gray line going down. That goes just inside the gate. And that's so if maintenance people need to go down for any reason, they can see down there without the lamps. But yeah, so right now we are approximately 100 feet down from the surface, and we are approximately 500 feet in from that entrance that we came down.
Wow.
So, and then over here we have a pack rat midden, and this midden is thousands of years old. It's been contributed to by generations and generations of pack rats in here. And it has a lot of feces and urine in it, so that's one reason they don't smell very good. But this midden, and like others around the country and overseas, are a wealth of information for scientists. Scientists can core them like you would a tree, put that coring instrument in, pull that piece of wood out. You can count the rings to see how old the tree is. It does the same thing pretty much with these middens, except what they pull out are all the treasures that these pack rat generations have brought down in here. There are seeds, pollen, maybe a little bit of vegetation, and maybe some little animal bones. So they carbon date them, and at that point they can tell, for example, some middens around the country are 40 to 60,000 years old. This one is not quite that old. We think this one it's thousands of years old, but it's probably 10,000 years old or younger. And the reason is because we had ice sheet up above here earlier than that, or earlier than that, and they wouldn't have been coming down then. But so they're really, really important little critters. They're like our historical data keepers. With all of that sampling that these scientists gather from these, they can tell what the climate was like maybe 20,000 years ago or 40,000 years ago. From what they find in there, they can date it. So they know if it was dry, if it was pouring down rain, if it was cold, hot, what creatures were wandering around up there at that time. So it's really that's very cool. It's really neat that they can get this information out of here, and the pack rats love it down in here. Okay, so I'm going to turn the lights out in a couple minutes so we can see their world or not see it, depending on your perspective. But first I'll tell you how they manage to navigate in and out of here. And I want you to think about it when we do turn out the lights. And then if you're real quiet when I turn them out, you can hear maybe some dripping. I don't think you'll hear any pack rat footsteps, but I think you might hear some drips. So, but pack rats have ears and nose and obviously mouth and whiskers. They're really cute, again, but their nose is their key to finding their way in and out of here. They don't have echolocation like bats. They don't have super night vision. They do have hearing. Their whiskers tell them if they get into a really narrow area. But their nose is how they do this. So what they do, and again, the reason they don't smell very good, is they urinate on their tails, and then they drag that tail up and out of the cave system, and then when they come home, they find their particular scent, because each one of them has their own distinctive scent, so they follow that track back in. They come right back into their nest area. They don't end up at their neighbors who wasn't expecting company. So it doesn't sound very good to us, but it really works for them. And when I turn out these lights, you will see that it's pretty amazing that they can live in this world. So I'm gonna, can you hold this for me, Carlos? Thank you very much. Okay, alrighty. So is everybody comfortable with me turning the lights out? Okay.
Yeah.
Take hold of somebody near you, grab their hand. Don't move. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, somebody's light's on.
Oh.
I see a couple. Calcite with moisture in it. So that mineral, the wavelength from this black light enters the calcite, and the electrons are just bouncing around in there and emitting this light to us. So everywhere I shine it, it's coming back. Now here, you can see the calcite on the right, the white, and on the left you see the black. That black is that Leadbetter shale. So it's not moist, it's not currently growing, it's just a rock that's, so there's nothing there, it's just black. But the calcite's definitely different. So if anybody wants to take a picture, I know you can without a flash, and let me know, and I will hold still so that you guys can take pictures. If you use a flash, it negates the effect. So let me know if that's the tail drag from the little pack rat. So
Be darned.
so it's still really pretty, but you know, then you gotta go, oh well, it's the urine. So, but it's still really pretty. Then over here, you will see some of it going into this nest, because you can see an opening on the nest, and you kind of, it goes down over the wall. They don't seem to like our metal stairs and walkways. So I always find their droppings when I come down to unlock the cave early in the morning up on the concrete there. But they have little claws that they just climb up the rock. And then these white balls down on the floor, those are actually calcite stalagmites that are starting to grow up from the moisture that's dripping down on them. Okay. Now I'm going to go up the stairway to that.
Because it's graded, so it looks like it's at the front.
I'm going to go up to the column. I promise to come back.
Can you order me a pizza?
Oh, I know exactly what I would order. Darling. Okay. All right. This is the calcite. I'm going to put this black light against the calcite column, and the calcite is going to absorb this wavelength, and then when I shut off the light, going to re-emit that light back to you for about a second. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Oh,
That's cool. Wow.
look cool. Crazy.
Now, a couple of the guides are artists. I'm a writer, so I'm not a very good artist. And some of those guys can actually make really elegant, happy faces. But you're stuck with me and my simplicity, but at least you get the idea. Okay, lights are back on. We're thankful that we don't have to live like pack rats and we're up above the surface without a light. So this is the end of our formal tour. I just want to thank all of you guys for showing interest in coming here today, because it means a great deal to the state and to the parks and definitely to us who work here. So I just want to tell you thank you. I've enjoyed meeting all of you. You've been a great group. So you can take your time heading out, taking more pictures. If you have any questions, I can meet you at the top. I will be the last one out. Okay?
Thank you. You did a good job.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Come here.
Huh? What you gonna do?
Just smile.
If we get it, we'll do a good job.
I get you moving around.
How you gonna do it?
Oh, go down.
You can go down.
You can't see me.
Oh, it's okay.
Be careful that they don't get it.
Let's get this. Hold on. Turn around now. There's a worm right there. Worm. Yeah. Look, turn the light. That's the worm right there, right here.
Just so you can see the bugs. Oh, look at a mosquito right there.
That little bug right there.
You're probably the one that bit me the other day.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Maybe I can see now better. Yeah,
See, this is graffiti right here. This is her name right here.
oh, there's right there a name right there too. See that right there?
Where, top?
Yeah.
Let go.
Don't let it hit.
I got it. Oh, it's drip on me. I wasn't a kid.
Right here somewhere.
No, that one hanging down over there.
Oh, come on. Come make your wish.
I don't know.
Okay, we're done with our tour. Going up. We're gonna try to get drops on us so we can get kisses.
Up here, and this one.
Over here.
Right here. It's big
Over
right
here,
here.
right here, right here.
Oh, I got one on my shoulder.
You
Yeah.
made a wish?
Oh, it's got one back. Yeah, I had 3 of them.
Hold on.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
You see that? That's one right there. It's just back there.
Like,
Hi, baby. How you did? You saw clear, look at that water.
no.
That's one of them up there. Yeah.
Huh?
You see somebody right there? How you turn on the light?
It is on.
That's how cold it is in here year round. Whether it's 100 degrees outside or -0 outside, it stays about 39 degrees in here. It's cool.
That's that 50 feet cave.
Yeah, because you have to heat it up and humidify it.
Here you go, baby. I could live down here, man. Turn it off, baby.
No, I'm still recording. That's the
Year round, man.
algae she was talking about.
This is the green eggs and bacon.
Mm-hmm.
With pepper on it. Down to the house down here, man.
I thought I wouldn't be able to do this, but
How you did?
I did good. I wasn't even scared.
Yeah, imagine it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
All right, here.